On the phone. Oh, yeah, all the time. Yep.
Oh, that.
Oh, yeah.
During all the meetings, she sat there and.
You know who gets to do that? He's always on the chair. In fact, when he became chair of something, they didn't really stop him. You've got to run. You can't just be like all he did. He ignored everybody. Oh, speaking of which, I should pretend like I'm on my phone now.
I think we're about ready to get going here. So we'll call this meeting of the board composition review. I don't know for a committee or a group or what we are, but we're here to review the gaggle together. And if I'll first start by having Rachel make a roll call, please.
Arlington Jan Schweddy.
Present.
Thank you. Briar Michael Gallagher. Thank you. Bothell Mason Thompson. I don't believe he's here. Okay. Darrington Dan Rankin. Present. Thank you. Edmund Susan Payne. Thank you. Goldbar Davy Martin. Online.
Present.
Thank you.
Present.
Thank you very much. Granite Falls, I don't believe we have anyone in attendance. Index, I don't believe we have anyone in attendance. Lake Stevens, Kim Daughtry.
Present.
Thank you. Linwood, Christine Frizzell.
Present.
Thank you. Marysville, John Nearing.
Here.
Thank you. Mill Creek, we don't have anyone in attendance today. Monroe, Heather Fulcher. Thank you. Mount Lake Terrace, we don't have anyone in attendance. Muckleteo, Joe Marine.
Here.
Thank you. Snohomish, Tom Merrill.
Here.
Thank you. Snohomish County, Jared Mead.
Here.
Thank you. Stanwood, Sid Roberts.
Here.
Sultan, Russell Wita.
Here.
Thank you. And we do not have a member present from Woodway. So that concludes roll.
Thank you, Rachel. Just an overview of today's meeting. There'll be two parts of it. The first part will consist of a board composition review, and I'll get into more detail of that in a second. Following that review, we will have we will have the board constitution formula, at which point we'll take a break and allow Rachel and staff some time to prepare for breakout rooms to select the actual board members. Upon the completion of that process, we will come back here and we'll announce the board members for the 2024 onward board. And at that point, we will close the meeting. So, and my clickers here. So we'll jump into the first part of the meeting, the board composition review. Just by a way of a bit of overview, Community Transit is formally what they call a Public Transportation Benefit Area Corporation. We're a creature of state statute that was enacted in 1976. And as part of that, forming a governmental entity, initially it was required that the component cities within the PTBA get together and figure out how the board was to be governed. The statute gives not much guidance in how that is done. Basically, we have a maximum of 9 positions that can make up our board. It can be less than 9, but we've been at 9 historically. So that's initially what we were set in 76. We had a board set at that time. And then the statute requires that every 4 years, we go through a similar process where the component cities and the county get together in a room like this and have a meeting like this to determine the composition of the board. And the composition does not have to be changed. The only guidance we get from the statute is this group can change the composition if it is quote unquote deemed appropriate. Next slide, please. So as I said, this is every 4 years we do this. In the interim of the 4 years, at every 2-year mark, so in 2 years, we will get together again and have the second part of this meeting where we will select board members to fill the slots in the composition that we determined today. And then we'll again do this process with the full overview of the composition in 4 more years from now. To sit on the Community Transit Board, you need to be an elected official. You need to be selected by your respective jurisdiction. And currently our board is composed of 9 voting members. There is also a 10th member of our board, a non-voting member that represents organized labor. So to start, we will take a look at where we are now, what the current composition is, and going forward for today's discussion, we are using the revised population figures from the most recent State Office of Financial Management numbers. And that will be the basis of our discussion for today. Currently, maybe go to that. Currently, we have 2 members and 1 alternate from the Snohomish County Council. We have 2 members and 1 alternate from component cities with population of 35,000 or more. We've a lot of times called that the large cities. We have 3 members and 2 alternates from component cities with populations between 15,000 and 35,000. And we've historically called those the mid-sized cities. And we have 2 members and 1 alternate from the component cities with populations below 15,000, excuse me. And that has been called historically been called the small cities. And again, we have the 1 non-voting member. Yeah, the next slide is just a different way of visualizing our current composition. I'm going to take a second to look at that. So one major difference from the way it's set forth right now is that at the time 4 years ago where we were setting forth the composition, there were 3 cities that qualified under the population requirements as large cities. In the intervening 4 years, Lake Stevens has now jumped above the 35,000 population. So they would be a 4th city under our current structure. And if the next slide, please, that shows the current numbers that reflect the 2023 population numbers. And I think probably a better slide, if you can click through to the next one, shows how these numbers have changed in the last 4 years. So with that, I'm going to kind of back away from this discussion because this is your group. It's, as I say, it's one of the almost a rarity in state law. There really isn't much guidance. There's a requirement that this group of people come together, but this is your time to open the floor for discussion and make a decision on how you feel the board should be composed in the next 4 years. And with that, I will open the floor for discussion.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So as a member of the small cities, I mean, we've chatted a fair amount about this, and we don't see any scenario where we want small cities to just have 1 member at the board. We feel like it's, at least I feel like it's an issue of equity, and it's not all about population. I mean, we cover half of the county, North County, and I just don't think 1 board member could really cover, from Index to Stanwood. And so, there's about 4 scenarios have been handed out. And I personally don't think the county should lose 1 either. So, I'm favoring a bump up from the medium size to the large, and that there'd be 3 large, 2 medium, 2 small, and 2 at the county. So. And again, just last point, to me, it's an issue of equity. So.
Can I get a clarification as to what the roles and responsibilities are for the alternate positions?
Mike here. So the expectation would be that in the event one of the seated board members in that classification was not able to participate in a meeting, that they would fill in. With the expectation that there would be, keeping abreast of the topics that are relevant at the time. So there would be some expectation that there would be some monitoring of what was going on with community transit in the board, probably looking at board packets, that sort of thing. We've had varying degrees of participation historically with the alternates. Some have physically actually been to a lot of the meetings,
Right.
some have not. So there really is no prescribed checklist of what is required, but that would be what I would have an expectation of someone that had an interest to be an alternate. They would be abreast of the issues that were relevant at the time.
Okay, so right now, do we have 4 alternates? That's how I marked it off. We have one from Edmonds, one from Mount Lake Terrace, one from Bothell, and one from Briar.
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
I'd like to make mention as a member of the council in Gold Bar, which of course is on Route 2. I think that raising the number to 2 for small cities would be equitable and address some of our very, very urgent concerns about Route 2.
All right. So, yeah, I'm looking over these, and I know a number of us have had quite a bit of discussion back and forth on how to make this fair and equitable and have everybody representative. And for quite a while, it's just kind of stuck with me that the county council, quite frankly, would have 2 seats. I don't know that any one body needs more than 1 representative to represent them. Whether that is Councilmember Mead taking that back to the council and working through the issues at community transit can be done. I don't know, again, why it would take 2 any more than if we have a large city that they would be guaranteed 2 spots, right? One spot is all you need to represent that city. Even if it's a guaranteed spot, which the county would have. Over the years, and I've been on here off and on for quite a while, I can probably count on one hand the time that we've seen 2 county council members at a meeting. It's been a long time since we've seen them in person. Usually it's online and usually not much interaction. So I don't, I think making sure that they have a guaranteed seat and is perfectly right. But I don't think that medium or small cities should be giving up a seat while the county holds 2 that they don't particularly even use. So that's my perspective.
Go ahead.
Thanks. One thing, I appreciate the comments, and I was going to wait to see how the discussion went before I jumped in, but both of the previous comments have been about, I think, a little reference to county and then obviously specifically the county's positions. And I agree with Councilmember Roberts that it is more difficult to represent an entire group as just 1 versus 2. And of course, the county council members maybe have not been in person, but I've been at all the meetings. I think I missed 1 meeting last year when I was assigned, all online. I'll give you that, but I don't think that changes the participation level, whether we're in person or online. Also on subcommittees, I was on a subcommittee on the way here. But to the point of the data that we have with the scenarios, the population representation per seat, I mean, just based on these numbers, it would be a massive amount of population represented by 1 member if it was myself or a different county council member, having 375,000 people being represented by 1 member. Not to mention the difference that I would argue the difference between counties versus cities. I won't bash all cities together, small, medium, and large cities. Obviously, there's a reason we categorize cities differently based on their size, because all cities are dealing with different types of issues. But cities generally, small, medium, or large, are different and dealing with different challenges than the county, in the sense that the county does not have 1 jurisdiction, 1 boundary. The county spans all the way from the coastline all the way to the end of the county, north, south, east, west. We have all the spaces in between. So there are different issues that, say, Councilmember Naring in the 1st district, his district physically, his district geographically is probably 20 times the size of my district in the South County, which is the smallest district in the county. My district is very dense, a lot of urban, versus what he represents and the issues that he would have and his constituents would have that are relevant to community transit's policies. So I do think there is a necessity to have multiple representatives based on all the jurisdictions. That's why I support what Councilmember Roberts was saying, as far as being, there's an objection to either of the scenarios that leave one of the categories, whether it be small cities or the county, to just one seat, is setting aside, the obvious difference between the amount of population that would be represented by just one member. But I think I don't want to dominate the mic, and we can have a robust conversation. I think I can give a little bit more input as we move along, but I just wanted to put my position out there as well.
Well, for nobody else is going to speak. I would be careful on going on just population, because if we do that, small cities would probably go to one seat. And I don't want that to happen, quite frankly, but that's what happens if we start doing things based on population and doing it that way. I kind of wished I'd asked staff much earlier to, it would have been helpful to actually have whatever metrics that would be for the community transit to show, based on small, medium, and large cities and county, the level of community transit in those areas, whether that's miles driven, hours, what have you. And that would give us a different perspective than just population as well, to see how many are you representing. You said, well, it's square miles area, it's huge. Population, maybe not so much. And how much transit are we talking? Because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're doing here, right? So
I would agree with that, Joe, that it would be great to base it on ridership. To Councilmember Mead's point, if you're solely representing one area, and right now it's you and Strom, and what area does Strom represent?
So Strom Peterson represents Linwood, Edmonds, kind of.
Right.
And I'm southeast county.
Right. So that leaves 3/5 of the county unaccounted for on this board. And I just question whether or not we are getting the total coverage that we have, and wondering if when you come, do you come with just the view of your group, your district, rather than all of Snohomish County, all of unincorporated?
So similar to how I imagine cities operate, we have presentations from our outside boards and committee assignments every council meeting, which is weekly. And so Strom and myself, Councilmember Peterson and myself, bring forward our conversations here at Community Transit, bring it forward, and have that opportunity to have the back and forth conversation with our other council members. I'm assuming that's probably that's how Mill Creek, when I was on the Mill Creek City Council, that's how we operated as well. And so ideally myself and whoever else would be representing, in this case, Councilmember Peterson, we'd be bringing forward the perspective of the county.
Of the whole county.
Right.
Okay. So, and that's what I was hoping you would say, because that's what needs to happen, is a representation, not just representing, but a representation of the whole county. So, thank you.
Matt, just like to follow up. I think that we get on a slippery slope when we start making our decisions only about population and ridership. The people in Index and Stanwood that go to the grocery store pay the same amount of sales tax as someone in Linwood. And I would just say that I have I think probably a unique situation as I was a city council member in Linwood and served on this board as an alternate for 4 years before I went to Stanwood and was ultimately elected mayor there and here. It's different in a dense area, right? I mean, when you're coming down 196, I don't think the community sometimes knows the difference between at 76, whether they're in Linwood or they're in Edmonds, but they know the difference when they're up in Stanwood, and they know it is a different kind of thing. And I just want to hit again on the point of equity for the people who ride. And as the council member Martin was talking about from Index, I mean, it's, I just don't think that one board member could serve all of North and East County. I just don't think that would work.
Thank you. Susan Payne from Edmonds. And I would echo what Mayor Roberts just said, and sometimes casting forward into the future when other options are coming online offered through community transit, ridership is going to shift. Well, we have new service coming in from Sound Transit. And I think that overall, I think we need to be super broad about how we look at how we deliver all the services for community transit riders and the opportunity that's there to connect up with other services as well. So I would hope that we don't base it off of ridership alone, because the potential for greater ridership is always going to be there too.
I wanted to weigh in here. I'm Tom Merrill. I'm also small cities representative. Everything that Mr. Roberts said and Councilmember Martin said from Gold Bar. The other observation I wanted to make on the small cities is that if you look at the way the board members are set up now, the South County and the population corridors are very well represented, whether it's either by size or population. And at a time when the light rail is going to come in and all, now we're beginning to be able to look at how we might increase the services in the small cities. Now is a good time for us, for the small cities, to at least maintain the two voices that they have on there. It is a matter of equity. It's also a matter of perspective on beginning to use some of these resources to improve the services in the remote areas like Darrington or up the Highway 2 corridor that right now has two bus services a day. So I again am fully in favor of keeping two voices from the small cities on this board and looking at the other alternatives that we have for the rest of the board composition.
I could jump in. I think from my perspective, and I think some other folks have raised the point of, I mean, regardless of the category of city we're talking about or the county, there's a lot of diversity, you know, between them, whether it's the small cities across the county. So at least from my perspective, I think I'm hearing this from some other folks, is having at least 2 seats per group makes sense, so that you've got that opportunity to have that representation. So in my mind, if we're going to move forward, and not having a chair for this meeting is kind of weird. I don't know if we want to change that before we move forward, but you know, to move the conversation forward, you know, for this group to make a decision on, do we want to have at least 2 people per category? Because if the majority of the group wants to move forward with that, it makes the decision pretty easy which one of the 4 gets 3 seats. So that's, I guess, what I would maybe suggest. Certainly everyone here has strong opinions and is going to do what they want, but if we can have a discussion and agree that each category should have at least 2, it turns the conversation to a direction of, okay, where does the extra one go? And we can have a discussion there. So but that would be my preference, is that every category keeps at least 2 seats.
Is that a motion?
Sure, I'll move that at least every category maintains at least 2 seats.
I'll second that.
This is why we need a chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be de facto. If we move second, I'll open the floor for discussion on that motion in second.
Yeah. Again, I wouldn't support that, only because I don't see any reason that the county, being one of those, needs to have 2 guaranteed seats. They are one body. One person can represent them and bring back their interest to that, anything they would vote on. None of us get that. I can bring back the Mukilteo because I'm here. Without that, I wouldn't, right? We're counting on all the other medium cities to represent us. Or if you're in small cities or large cities, nobody's guaranteed a seat. The county is guaranteed one, not just 1, 2. And again, if there was a reason that I can see why the county needed 2 seats to be represented, I would support that. But I don't get that. I would support probably scenario 4 with them having the 1 seat. But that's I think I was pretty clear on that before.
Respectfully, you're overlooking, I mean, yes, I can bring back the opinion of the council, but I would get one vote of 9 votes. So there's a difference between representing and reflecting an opinion of a body and having the power of a vote. And you'd be stripping a vote from the county representation, not just the voice. I can represent North County's opinion, having had conversations with Councilmember Nearing in our council meetings, but then I bring it back and have 1 out of 9 votes rather than 2 out of 9 votes representing the county position. Just like yourself, you'd be bringing back the perception or the reflection of the opinions of the city of Mukilteo's county or city council, but you'd only have 1 vote, or you'd have 2 votes, or you'd have 3 votes. So there's a difference in the power of the vote as well, not just what you're speaking as representation.
I understand what you're saying, but take Councilmember Payne, for example, who's in large city category, and she is dependent on Mayor Frizzell, Mayor Naring representing as large cities. She doesn't get a vote on the board, but it doesn't mean that her voice isn't heard, and she spends a lot of time at the meetings as an alternate to make sure that happens. Again, the county has 2 seats and an alternate to get their voice heard. I don't know that it takes 2 of you to go back to vote at the county council or have extra votes on the board. I don't know that there's, except for this scenario, I don't think there's anybody that's kind of looked like they've maybe gone after the county. I think we represent, as a matter of fact, looking at Representative Peterson, who's my representative, he's Edmonds, Mukilteo, and Linwood. He's well represented. That area is well represented on the board now with the cities. So again, I'm not getting why the county would have to have 2 guaranteed seats and an alternate.
So you have 7 city council members in Mukilteo. If you went down to 5 right now, your vote on the city council is
No,
1 of 7.
I don't get a vote. But
On your city council?
no, I'm a mayor. I don't get a vote.
Okay, so on your city council, a city council member gets 1 vote in out of 7. If you drop that city council to 5, they get 1 vote out of 5. Their vote becomes stronger. It becomes 20% rather than whatever the math is of 1 of 7. So it's the proportion of the vote of the voice, not just my presenting the opinions of the county, but the power of the county's representation on a board that has services provided all around the county, not just in my district.
So you would suggest that the cities give up voices so that the county could have 2?
No,
That's basically what you're saying.
in scenario 1, the way we have it currently, everybody's got 2 seats and the medium cities have 3 seats. So if nothing changes, the county has 2 seats. It's the same as we've had. Scenario 2, which is based on the difference in size of basically 1 city that has gone from 1 category to the next category, we could then shift where that extra seat, to Councilmember Weeda's point, where that extra seat goes. But I'm not proposing that we take power or take a voice or a vote away from 1 category or the other. The scenario that you're representing is doing that. It'd be stripping the county of 1 seat on the board. If we did nothing, 2-2-3-2. That's the way it works right now. If we went to scenario 2, it's 2-3-2-2. When you get to scenario 3 and 4, that's when you're talking about stripping away the voice and the power from whether it's the county side or the small cities category. So I'm not suggesting that we strip power, but I think that is baked into scenario 3 and scenario 4.
I don't want to monopolize here, but see, obviously you're not gonna have an issue with that because you're just taking a seat away from medium cities. So there's 7 medium cities vying for 3 seats. Now there'll be 6 because 1's moving in, but now we're vying for 2 seats. So we are losing a seat. Yeah.
Right.
So
then you can make the argument between scenario 1 and 2, which still allows mediums 2 and larges 2, whichever one you go with.
and the beautiful part is county still receives a guaranteed seat. You'll still have a voice.
Right.
You still can come to the meetings virtually or otherwise, and you'll still be heard. But one of us in medium cities will not be because we won't have a seat at the table.
There's
Not 1 or 2 or 3 of us.
Right, there's already 3 or 4 cities regardless that are not represented on this board, but they are by the medium city category. So we're talking about ourselves in the perspective of categories, not as cities. Otherwise, we'd have to have 20 something board members, board positions to have all the cities represented. That's why we categorize them. That's why I think it's useful to categorize them as small, medium, large, and county. Or I'm speaking of it more in the sense of category where it sounds like the difference is you're thinking of it more in cities, and I get that piece of the argument. I disagree with it.
I know there's a motion on the floor, but I'm just gonna throw out another option to see where that goes. What if we were to add 2 seats instead of staying at 9?
Can't do
You
that.
can do that.
That's that's the only guidance we do have from the statute is we were capped at 9, so.
Thank you, Matt.
Unless you jumped into another county and that's a whole different. kettle of
Nope,
fish.
just trying to find a middle way.
If there's no more discussion.
Discussion, we do have a motion on the floor, so so the motion, as I understood it, was that each category would retain at least 2 board members. So the county would retain 2, large retain 2, medium a minimum of 2, and smalls is a minimum of 2. So if I can show a hand of yays.
Yay.
We got one online. So Jay.
So 7. And nays? Oh, can we do it, or did I get so? 1, 2, no,
Maybe we should do a roll call.
yeah, go,
What-
6. Motion carries. So moving onward, then any further composition motion would need to comply with at least 2 seats in each category. And again, we'll open the floor for discussion on the next step.
Well, since we have decided on 2 in each category, I really do like option 2 because I think the large cities do need a little bit more representation, but I want to make sure that the small cities do. We've already decided they are not going to lose a seat, so I like option 2.
Are you making a motion?
I'm gonna move that we go with scenario 2, please.
So we have a motion and second on the floor to go with scenario 2 in the document that Councilmember Daughtry passed out earlier. And I will open the floor for discussion on that. Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, all against say nay. Passed unanimously. Another order of business, if we could address how many alternates would be in each of these categories. I think
The difficulty with that conversation is that there's only 4 cities in large with 3 seats,
so they'll have one alternate.
one alternate. And everything else, it'd be basically, I mean, you could stay the same and it wouldn't be a problem, or you could drop an alternate for medium cities and just have.
County have all the power.
Yeah, but large cities having another alternate would be, it's not possible.
Is it right now that there's one alternate per category?
There are currently 2 alternates in the mid-sized cities.
Okay.
Do we? Oh, sorry, Susan. I know we don't have the ability to expand the board. Do we have the ability to mess around with the number of alternates?
There's nothing in the statute that addresses alternates, so
You could do whatever you want.
do what you want, yeah.
I would assume you just take it from medium cities like you took the seat, so that would seem the obvious.
Actually, I would think that we could add an alternate to the small category. Because it doesn't matter if it's odd or even on alternates, is that right?
Correct.
If I could speak as well, as an alternate, I've been an alternate for, this is my third year and I've enjoyed, well, this is my second year and coming up with the vote, we'll decide that later. But having access to the structure that is community transit, I would absolutely support by having an additional alternate for the mid-sized cities, because that's going to be super important. If you have access to to the community transit and the administration, you're able to talk to them about projects that are in your area that are hyper local. That makes it, that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. So kind of just making sure that there's connections behind the scenes. So I would absolutely support that because it's a valuable tool for any of the cities. And I think that's a great idea. So I appreciate the thought about that and adding another alternate for the mid cities.
Just a clarification, because I think the comment was made that only there'd only be one seat or one city remaining. I don't remember in the slides on qualifications for the board that you couldn't have two representatives from the same city within a category. Is that not true?
There's, as I say, there's no guidance. So.
Right. So in that case, it really doesn't matter how many cities are in the category, because if you have in the large city category, 2 council members from Marysville and the other cities voting in that caucus agree, we'll put 2 forward. The number of cities versus the number of seats really doesn't matter, because the qualifications don't prevent a city from having multiple board members.
That's correct.
That would be like loading the deck. I hope that never happens, but I'm glad to be aware of that. Thank you.
I mean, each city gets 1 vote in the caucus, right? And so one city would not be able to monopolize the situation. They would have to have agreement from the majority of cities within their category.
Also correct.
I can't speak for the medium cities, whether there needs to be another alternate, but both and Councilmember Payne did what I did, and as Councilmember Gallagher has done as alternates, you win your Sunday school gold stars. You're here almost, every time, and so is Mike. And so I don't know that the small cities need another alternate, honestly, but it's working pretty good as it is. All 3 of us are here almost every meeting. So,
beside the point that alternates are there to vote when the board member is absent in the small, medium, large cities, what it's really for is to maintain the voice of that category, but it's also to maintain a quorum, so that we don't have a problem of having a quorum for the board to actually meet and get something done. So I don't ever remember, I've been on the board for 14 years, an alternate for a couple of years, and I don't ever remember not having a quorum because we didn't have enough alternates. It just never happened. So, however we maintain it is fine. I mean, if you just for instance, large cities, we've got it's done. We got 3 board members, and we got when we have an alternate, whoever that is. Sorry, I didn't mean to point at you, so that's not determined yet. But having 3 on medium and 2 on small, it doesn't matter what the number is in reality, because that we're still going to maintain a quorum on the board. I think, though, that it's important to get people involved, and having alternates filling positions that we decide on is important to have them there. I know I was attended as an alternate also. The biggest problem that you would have is if you have an alternate that's not coming and not understanding what's going on. They have to come sit in that seat and make a vote, and they're not informed. That's not the right way to do it. And that's my personal opinion. We do have alternates that are here every time, and that I think that's the way it's supposed to be done. So that's my 2 cents on alternates.
one last thing about that is and I think this is unique to community transit, is that when there's big decisions to make, like hiring a CEO or whatever, the alternates are invited totally into that process. And I think that is also pretty unique. And so that would be a voice for maintaining, more alternates than not, in my opinion. So.
Just a quick process question for, I guess, historically, the medium-sized cities have had 2 alternates. Is there like a first alternate, second alternate? I mean, how's it decided meeting by meeting, which alternate is gonna serve?
Phone call.
Whoever picks up the phone first?
Yeah, who's available?
Okay.
Does anyone have a motion they want to put on the floor regarding alternates?
That would be mid-size.
2 and 2. Are we 2 and 2 now?
But they do 2 total or they currently have 2 alternates.
Mid-cities currently have 3 alternates. No, 2 alternates. I'm sorry, I'm back in
We
the
have
way.
three seats and 2 alternates. I don't know, adding another to medium, I don't think that would be kind of odd having
All 6
2
cities
seats
there.
and 3 alternates, but
Yeah.
yeah. If anything, I think it would either stay as, or it would move to large cities, because then you currently would have 3 seats and 1 alternate.
And that's it.
Yeah,
There's
so
4.
that would make more sense. Whoever has the 3 seats would have the second alternate. So,
Oh, I see. We can do that based on what you said. Well, I would also think that we would have another
unless the
alternate.
county wants a second alternate or something. Okay.
I would think that the small city should have 2 alternates also.
You got 4 at the meeting.
The small cities have 2 alternates right now.
They only have 1 right
We
now.
only have 1, man.
I think we're good with just 1 alternate. I mean,
Yeah, I think 2 and 1, 2 and 1, and 3 and 2. So I would move to have large.
Excuse
city-
me,
I'm
just
sorry.
a Robert's rule. Ms. Payne has a motion on the floor that did anybody mean for it to die, or did everybody just decide to start talking? Just checking.
Are you okay? Okay.
go Joe.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I would move that we move a second alternate to large cities from medium. Only have 4. Yeah. I'm just trying to, where it would make sense. If you got 3 seats, you're more chance. When you already have 2 seats, I don't know why you'd need 2 alternates, but.
I'll second the motion for the purposes of debate.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
Russell.
Come on,
I
Mayor.
said
you
my
can handle
piece.
this.
I said my piece.
I guess I'll just jump in. You know, it goes back to the conversation before that an alternate could be a council member or the mayor from a city who has one of the main seats. And so, you know, having 3 seats, more likelihood that someone's going to be absent than a category that has 2 seats just by math. So I think it does make sense to have that. And I don't think there would be a huge conflict in having an alternate from a city that has a main seat. So if you wanted to, if the motion passes and you end up with 2 alternates in a category that has 4 cities, I just don't see the conflict there.
Maybe I'm a little confused, which is not unusual, Russell. But each city has to make a council motion to decide who's going to be representing the board, right? And I just don't know how that would work if you're making a motion to send, a primary person and a potential alternate. Am I missing something here?
What?
There may be an issue in the next room when we select the alternates.
Well, I just mean from each city council and the county has to decide who they're going to send as their representative to community transit. And if 2 people from one city can do that, I don't know.
Well, it wouldn't be 2 people from one city attending the caucus. It's just because as far as I know, again, because the slide of qualifications didn't say anything, you don't have to be in the room in the caucus to be elected the representative to the board or an alternate to the board. So if, we go in there and we want to make Sid Roberts one of the small city representatives and one of your council members
Good
the
idea.
alternate. We don't need that council member to be in the room voting in the caucus to be elected an alternate. So no, the cities would not have to send 2 people to the caucuses in order to achieve the election of representatives and alternates.
But in that scenario, would they be denied sending 2 people?
To the
Could there
caucus.
only, to the caucus, could there only be representation from one person per city attending the caucus?
Right.
Okay.
I believe the bylaws say that.
The question would be if we went into the next room though, and someone was appointed that wasn't further ratified by that particular city council would be a potential issue that I could see.
Do most cities caucus representatives have their city council
Yeah.
tell them who to vote for?
Yeah,
Mhm.
to that point, no, well, at least not in Marysville. So they vote to send me to the
Send the
caucus. But
Right.
then I could vote for one of my council members today to, if I wanted to, I wouldn't, but you know,
Be the only way to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you would need a willing member. And so we go in the next room. We only have one person here that could possibly be here in the room and serve as that role for the large cities today, but yeah. No.
So Councilmember Gallagher here. We are all voting today, aren't we?
Correct. Just.
So if we add a position, an alternate to large cities, does that then become 4 votes? In this meeting, in this forum?
Not in this, no,
Why not?
because only people in this room and in the next room will be able to vote.
Okay.
Can someone remind me what the actual motion is at this point? Is it just regarding the large cities or is it regarding all of them?
It was for removing one of the alternates. We currently, medium cities has 2 board members and 2 alternates. And it was removing one of the alternates to large cities, which currently now with the last vote has 3 votes and only 1 alternate.
But we're not limited to the amount of alternates. So,
Are we not? Oh, well,
so
yeah,
I would rather not lose an alternate for the medium cities.
me neither.
Thank
So
you.
maybe I'll vote
So
no.
maybe you just, okay, I'm gonna vote no on your. Thanks, Joe.
Let's all agree to
Can
vote.
we have the motion again?
Yeah.
For clarity.
The motion was to remove one of the alternates from medium cities over and move it into large cities. Before, the motion maker was unaware that you could have 20 alternates. Okay.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Well, it's on the table.
Why don't we just
Will
call
you
the
allow me to
question?
withdraw? Yeah, we can call a question,
Oh,
vote, everybody vote no, and we're good to go. I'm not telling you how to vote.
You know, in my own sense is we're kind of getting down the weeds on and away from really the primary business. I mean, I think if we leave the alternates as they are, I think that it would work, right? And we need to remember we do this every 4 years, right? And so if something doesn't work, we can come back and do it again.
Yeah.
I guess to build on that, is there a strong desire by the strong city representatives or the large city representatives here to have a second alternate? That was a fun 10 minutes then.
Yeah.
Well, first let's
We
do the
learned some
vote
things.
on the motion on the floor. So all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay.
No.
Hey,
Okay.
Then I would say that we do need a motion and approve the alternates as they are, but we could have a motion to maintain the status quo.
I want to comment on that before we get to that point, because I wanted to make sure, and I wanted to hear from other members of the small cities, whether we thought in the small cities, we would like to have more than one alternate.
I defer to the representatives and the alternate
Yeah.
we have if it works.
Yeah.
Don't break it.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
you've done pretty good today so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, we're doing it. No, I did want to hear from the small cities on that though, before we move forward with it. Otherwise, I'm not hearing any desire to have more than that, then I'm content with one. So
Make a motion to.
I'm willing to make a motion to leave the alternates as they are.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. And then last, if someone could just do a quick motion that these numbers will be used, this population numbers be used at when we reconvene in 2 years to reselect the board members.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Great, we've completed the board composition review, and if you give us about 10 or 15-minute break, if you can stay in the room, once we're ready, we will give some instructions of how the selection for each category will proceed, and we'll direct you to a caucus room.